Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
You started out in Central Florida. You grew up in Central Florida in Orlando. What were your dealings with law enforcement, and how did this kind of start off?
So for me, I was born in New York. My parents were separated when I was young. So eventually, me, my mom, and baby sister at the time, we moved down to the Orlando area in 2000. I was about 8 years old, and this one particular weekend, a guy from down south who I don't know how close you're familiar with like Pompano Beach area.
Yep.
So he ended up robbing a
Pompano
convenience
loves to
store.
travel across the state of Florida, and Pompano loves to branch out across Florida.
Yeah. So this guy, he ends up his career criminal, ended up getting out of prison a little early. His game plan when he gets out is rob a convenience store when the Brinks truck would come, drop money off. So he ended up killing one employee and shooting another. He flees the scene up to Central Florida. At that point, there's a BOLA put out for him. Orange County Sheriff's Office, they locate him at the time, but I don't know what Manning was back then, so they were kind of waiting until they had more units before they, attempted to make contact with him. So eventually, the deputies they do a traffic stop on him. He ends up shooting the deputy in the leg, and he ends up fleeing the scene there to my aunt's house, which is where me and my mom and sister were at the time. Jamaican family, so a large family, a lot of cousins in the house at the time. And it was
Yeah.
just one Saturday morning. I was watching cartoons, and next thing you know, some guy just kicked in the door holding a revolver. And the next thing you know, he's holding our family hostage.
Whoa, jeez. And how old were
Yeah,
you at that time?
I was 8 at the time, and my
About eight.
sister, she was almost 1. She wasn't 1 yet.
Oh man. Yeah. And that's to speak to today's day and age. You don't find that very often. True, real hostage situations. At least in my 18 and a half years of experience, where additional people are there. But I know in my city that recently we have had one, and they're terrible. They're tormenting. Nothing in TV can probably explain or portray what's going on and how that kind of feels for you. So what was your memory of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time. Uh, for me, that was the first time I remember just praying and like, talking to God, thinking like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but like, can you please just keep us safe and get us through this? And,
Of
you
course.
know, everybody has those core, those senses where like you remember the smell or like the feel, a touch of something. And to this day, after being around guns and having a gun at work every day, there was a time where the suspect he had put the revolver to the back of my head as he was escorting us into one room in the house, and I remember it feeling like the coldest gun I ever felt. Like it felt like if you left a gun in the freezer and you just put it to the
Right.
back of your head. I just remember feeling like a cold circle touching me, and it's it was definitely one of those like the biggest moment of like I don't know what's going on. I don't have any control of what's going on. I don't know what to do. I'm just waiting for everybody else to finish doing what they're doing, and hopefully no one dies. Um, my cousin, who at the time I think is early 20s, uh, so I guess backtrack. The house is primarily full of females. Mom, aunt, uh, teenage cousin that's a female, and then my sister, and then another baby cousin. There was one
Uh,
male adult, and I think he perceived him as a threat, so he actually ended up shooting my cousin in the face. And you know, once again, through the grace of God, he's okay. The bullet
oh
like
wow.
traveled through his it traveled through like his vertebrae, went out his back, um, and he was able to crawl out of the house and get help. So at this point, law enforcement's outside. I just don't know how many are out there, but they did follow him to the house. Um, and then shortly after my aunt, the suspect told my aunt to go get a phone. She ended up leaving the house as well at that time, and the whole standoff ended up lasting 50 hours. So we were all pretty much held hostage in the master bedroom closet as time went on, and it didn't it didn't feel like 2 days. Looking back on it, it really just felt like one long afternoon of
Uh-huh.
just complete chaos.
Wow. Wow. And so this guy just had no plan, didn't know probably what he was doing, and was just making
Yeah,
it up as
no,
he went. And he's just scared,
pretty
and
much, and
obviously terrorizing you guys through
yep.
that whole thing. Back on your cousin, is he? You said he survived and he's well. I mean, did he was he disabled from it? You said vertebrae, or is
I
he?
know he went
Yeah.
through like physical therapy for it. Looking
Uh-huh.
back and like seeing it happen, it looked like he got shot like through his mouth, and
Oh my
um,
god.
but it like I said, man, it just ended up going through the back of his neck, and he's not paralyzed or anything. Regular guy,
Wow.
so like he's living life.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. All right. Yeah. So what? Like how did it go through, or like what else? What else do you remember? Or what else happened from that?
So after, due to the time frame going on, the hostage negotiators they wanted to bring us food, and the suspect, I remember, ironically, it was donuts that they wanted to bring us, and the suspect
It's
and ends up,
2000.
yeah,
Police officers weren't as refined as we might be
yeah,
in today's day and age, but yeah. Okay.
yeah, food and water, right? Let's bring donuts.
Yeah.
That works for cops, should work for everybody else. So,
Should work for
um,
everybody else. Yeah.
yeah. So they wanted to bring us donuts. The suspect, he ended up telling me, he's like, "Hey, you go get the food." And I just remember being a little kid, and I was like, "I don't want to do it." And I told my mom to go get it. And that was the last words I spoke to my mom once she ended up going out of the closet to go get the food. I just remember hearing gunshots. And shortly after, the suspect, he lets me take my baby sister. He covers my head and he escorts me out of the house. And at that point, we're in the back of an ambulance, and they ended up taking us to a nearby area wherever they were doing the command post. And I just remember asking, like, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And I
Oh my
remember a
God.
female telling me that the cops accidentally shot my mom and ended up killing my mom instead of the suspect.
Yeah, when I read that explanation when you sent it to me, I was utterly stunned. Tragic and terrible. Did did they ever? There's so much now to unpack in this. Now that that part of the story is explained. Did they ever explain to you what they were shooting for, or what their manner and thought process was in that firing or shot firing?
Uh, being young at that age, I don't remember anybody really getting into detail with me about like
Yeah.
how she died. Just not till getting older than realizing and seeing what was going on. Um, the SWAT team's game plan originally was have the suspect go get the food, and they'll take the shot once he comes out. So back then, so this happened in the unincorporated area of Orange County. So initially, it was
Okay.
Orange County Sheriff's Office SWAT that was out there. Due to the long standoff, they got relieved by Orlando Police Department SWAT. And
Right.
once when they relieved them, it was like, hey, we have a house full of black people and we have a white male suspect. So they're mainly just looking for anybody that's white to take out at that point. But the problem was everybody in the house was light skinned. I was the only dark one there at the time. So like my mom's skin was almost about the same shade as the suspect. When
Oh,
some
okay.
Yeah, so when she went to the garage door to go get the food, they that just saw like a white hand through the door, and they ended up taking a shot without any facial recognition. So once they took the shot, suspect was on the phone telling them, "Hey, you ended up shooting the mom," and he was distraught, going through like the whole emotional roller coaster that he was on. So then he ended up escorting me and my sister out, and it wasn't too much long after to where he ended up killing himself as well.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you like that clip, go over and check out the full episode at Donut Shop Podcast. Link is down below in the description.